Hallo, wie geht's? Good afternoon, morning, or night, whatever you want to say. Uh, uh, I don't know any more hellos besides hello, hallo, which is hello in the German accent. I probably butchered the accent more than I actually got it correct. And then wie geht's, which is wie geht's is how are you doing in German. With, and I'm actually wondering, how are all the people who are watching this video right now doing so far today? Or the day that you're watching this. You get 10 million points if you put how you're doing this day in the comments. I'll probably see it, and in the next video that I do, probably address it. I may get a third video out today. Yeah, I might. So, on with the story of what if Naruto, or Naruko in this version, was a kitsune? And thank you for whoever put the comment of the timestamp in the last video of the 23 seconds in, and I explain what a kitsune is. But I'm going to go into a little bit more depth. A kitsune is a mythical beast, like the nine-tailed demon fox is also a mythical beast. That's why they can live in this area. But I'm also going to use the word fae, which is another term for mythical beast, to describe the other biju. Because Shukaku is literally a raccoon. I think it's a raccoon. Or is it a possum? It's either a raccoon or a possum. And there's a tribe of them that are raccoons or possums. Part human, part raccoon possum thing. Then there's the Eight Tails tribe, and then there's the mantle of the 8, 9, or the 1 to 9 tails are passed down because they have to stop the 10 tails from resurrecting. Yes, the war arc is about that. And if nobody knows what the war arc is, go watch Naruto Shippuden all the way through and you'll understand. But we are currently with Kakashi's team, and they are training chakra control. So Sakura is currently training. Yeah, Sakura, I put her on this team. Is currently training chakra control in the forest alone. While Sasuke and the ship is going to be Sasuke, because weird team dynamic. But I'm going to make Naruto completely oblivious to his feelings. Because, yeah, I think it would just be funny that way. So she's completely oblivious to his feelings, and he wants to impress her to get her to like him, but he's still somewhat of a brooding Uchiha. I'm going to also say that... No, I'm not going to do that yet. So, if I remember correctly, the table or the element signs are lightning, fire, wind, earth, water. If I remember correctly. Probably didn't. But she's learning it in that order. Light or fire. She learned fire first, but mastered wind first. So she got the white tail first. Now she's at the red tails. The 2 red tails. And while she was training for the waterfall climb, she was training her earth affinity at the same time. My cat is rolling around in the dirt like he's a dog. It's hilarious. But so she's training her earth affinity while she's doing the waterfall climb. And she masters the waterfall climb. But she practices it as much as possible. So while the week that they have off of protecting Tazuna every once in a while, the original Naruto goes to the bridge while she still uses her Kage Bunshin, which is the Shadow Clone Jutsu, to have her train. So she's still training the chakra control. She has 2 clones training chakra control all the time. She has like 50 clones training um, elemental affinities. And she normally has like 2 clones with her at all times brainstorming jutsus. So she masters her earth element. She masters the earth element. And the next day when Zabuza is coming around to attack them from being exhausted from chakra exhaustion and being all healed, and Haku being all healed, Naruto now has 3 tails. So her tails are brown. And she woke up and saw that she had 2 tails, and she was like, why do I have 2 tails instead of one tail? Because I want only 1 tail. And then the red tail disappears and the brown tail is still there. She's like, why is the brown tail here? I like the red tail more. And she's just annoyed because the red tail won't come back every time she says more than one. Every time that she wants more than 1 tail, the color scheme of brown, red, and white on her tail comes back, but it comes back on all the tails. And so she gets a little angry, and without knowing it, she channels some of the Kyuubi's chakra, weakening the cage a little. And the Kyuubi sees this, pulls back on his chakra as much as possible, but a little still seeps out. And Kakashi feels this and is like, what the hell is going on? And he runs to Naruto and says, what's going on? And she angrily says, I can't control the color of my tails. And Kakashi, he looks shocked and a little irritated, saying, I'm going to double your physical training when we get home. And she pales because she still sees him as father and a father figure. So in the bratish style that she still has, she goes, but Dad! And Sasuke gets woken up to that and goes, is she messing with stuff again? And Kakashi goes, no, she's complaining again. And Sasuke laughs a little, chuckles a little, and starts blushing slightly. And Naruto, seeing the blush, is confused. So right now I'm thinking of, or in between videos, I'm trying to work out how to make a community tab so I can put a poll that everybody who watches my videos will hear about. But it's currently not working with me, so I'm kind of slightly distracted. Sorry about that. But she sees this and is confused. Kakashi sees this and gets suspicious, but puts it to the back of his mind and says, today everybody's going to the bridge instead of staying here. And Naruto says that if it's today that they attack, they're probably going to leave someone here. And Kakashi says this is the last day the bridge is being built before it's complete, so they're most likely going to attack today. And Naruto says, why don't I just leave a hinged clone here that will transform back when it's disturbed? And Kakashi goes, that makes sense. So she makes a reinforced shadow clone, which, if you've read the fanfic Legacy, you'll understand what it is. It can take more than one hit. And it hinges into a basically coat rack that's next to the door, and they tell Kazuna's daughter and his grandson that the coat rack is not to be touched, because if it's touched, it will transform back into Naruto, or a clone of Naruto, and attack. And that it's here for protection. So if something happens, you knock it over, or you just touch it. And they nod and go, okay. And Sasuke, being a little jealous that Naruto still is better than him, because he still has a little bit superiority complex. A little bit. Sorry about that. I just yawned. I freaking hate yawning. So they get to the bridge, and the fight pretty much goes to canon, with Naruto and Sasuke being in the ice mirrors, and Sakura staying with Tajuna to deflect random Simbone or Kunai that come towards him. And Kakashi is fighting Zabuza. Kakashi is a lot faster than Zabuza at this moment, because he immediately revealed his Hiatate, or his Sharingan behind his Hiatate. Probably am still butchering that, but I'm trying. And during this skirmish, Tazuna is freaking out because of the amount of bloodlust Kakashi, Naruto, Sasuke, Haku, and Zabuza are releasing while they're fighting. The killing intent that they're releasing while fighting. And God damn it. Sorry, too much. Fudge. And he's freaking out. And while this is happening, Kakashi breaks the executioner blade. And Zabuza doesn't drop it like any swordsman would when the blade breaks. And Zabuza and Kakashi mentions that most swordsmen drops their broken blade when it breaks. And Zabuza starts laughing and goes, do you know why this is called the executioner blade and not just another large sword? And Kakashi says there's rumors of it being able to regrow. And Zabuza says, this sword is very special, and you're about to see why. And he peers behind Kakashi with the executioner blade in both hands and cuts Kakashi's arm to where it gets a little bit of blood on the blade. And the little bit of blood and the lots of chakra that's in the blood gets sucked into the blade, and it regrows 1/16 of the rest of the blade. And Kakashi seeing it regrow is like, so it is true. The blade does regrow. And Zabuza goes, it only regrows with the blood and chakra of its enemies. But you won't last long enough to see it fully regrow. And then they hear a giant boom from the uh, water prison, and they see a giant fireball released from Naruto and Sasuke. And it's melting the ice mirrors. Sasuke's little fire jutsu, with power, while powered up with a great get. I'm not even try saying that. A great breakthrough from Naruto, a very powerful great breakthrough from Naruto, engulfed all the mirrors at once, and Haku's chakra was sapped away really quickly. And since Naruto is Minato's biological daughter, she's a prodigy in Funjutsu. So she already has the Hiraishin memorized, but she doesn't have it mastered. And she has a few seals memorized and mastered. And the first seals that she memorized and mastered were movement restriction seals and chakra restriction seals. So she walks up and places 2 tags on Haku, and these tags were chakra and movement restriction seals. So she activates the chakra, and Haku all of a sudden falls limp and is breathing perfectly fine. It's like anesthetic, where you can't feel anything, but you can still move it slightly. That kind of anesthetic. So she places the movement restriction seals, and Zabuza sees this and goes after Naruto because he's a little mad that Haku now has a burn on the left side of her. It's a her. Haku's a her. Her face. A slight burn. Remember the very small, like, what looked like a cut? If anybody's seen the 7 Deadly Sins, what Bon has on the left side of his face, that's basically what Haku has. There's like a little burn patch there. And Zabuza runs at Naruto, and Naruto goes on all fours and sprints at Zabuza. And Zabuza, getting a full view of Naruto, sees the tail. And then he freaks out because all of a sudden she's right in front of him. And the one thing that Kakashi and Zabuza weren't expecting was a furious call of Rasengan from Naruto. So Zabuza gets thrown across the bridge and lands and is almost knocked completely out. And Gato shows up with all of his men and is about to attack Kakashi again, when Gato says, I'm not going to pay you anymore. You got beat by a child. And Zabuza starts getting furious, and Gato says, you're just way too expensive for me. So why don't I just kill you and your thing over there? And he points to the tied up Haku and says, yeah, I'm not going to even attempt to understand that demon. And Zabuza's strength comes back because he's completely royally pissed off, and Naruto walks in front of Zabuza calmly and says, I have a proposition for you. I have a little pull with the Hokage of my village. I may be able to help you stop running. His eyes widen and he says, what's the catch? And she goes, you're going to have to stop running and you're going to have to cancel your contract. And he says, the second part's already done because he canceled it for me. And I even put in the contract, if he backs down on the contract, he better be able to protect himself because I'm coming for him. And then she says, then you got to get me a sword made with parts of the executioner blade. And he looks at her like she's crazy, and he goes, yeah, I'm not doing that. And she goes, I want a sword that can repair itself. I think that's freaking awesome. And she looks at the sword with sparkly eyes and goes, can it please have one? With the childlike look, and he goes, I will, if you can wield my blade while it's at full heft. And she looks at the blade and picks it up and goes, this is super light right this second. Give me a second. And all the thugs that were currently there looking and scary and intimidating to a normal person look at her picking up the broken sword and starts laughing, not knowing that it's the executioner's blade that heals when it gets blood on it. And Zabuza says, it's going to get really heavy. Are you sure you want to do this? And Naruto says, yeah, I want to try. So she puts the hilt of the sword in her mouth and starts running like a fox. So she gets to the people and she spins in midair, letting two of her tails out, showing the rainbow colored tails right now. They are not going to be rainbowed at the end of when she gets her ninth. They're not going to be rainbowed. Well, actually, when she gets her fifth, they're not going to be rainbowed. But she starts spinning in midair and she pulls the sword out of her mouth with both hands and swings the broken sword, and it cuts the heads off of 3 people. And with the amount of blood that got sprayed onto it, it heals the rest of the way, and she starts cutting through them like they're blocks of butter with a warm butter knife. And when she gets to Gato, she points it towards his neck and tells him that for his crimes he has been found guilty and sentenced to death. And Zabuza, hearing this, starts laughing. And Kakashi asks why is he laughing, and he says that she just did a judge, jury, and executioner joke. And Naruto hears him laughing and he goes, at least someone understood my joke. And then cut off Gato's head. And she walks back with Kubikiri Bocho in one hand over her shoulder like Zabuza did at one point in the anime and stabbed it into the bridge. And Tazuna, who's currently passed out from the amount of bloodlust and excitement of that day, finally wakes up and sees that there's a ton of dead bodies on the bridge, and he faints again. So Naruto summons the amount of clones that she has been using to build the bridge and tells them to continue what they're doing to finish the bridge as fast as possible. And they start heading back to the Leaf Village. And the clone that was at Tazuna's house dispels finally after getting rid of the bodies of the thugs. And Naruto gets the memories and says that it was a good idea that I left a clone there. Kakashi asks why, and she says Gato sent some thugs there to pick them up. In air quote. And she did the air quotes with her hands. And Zabuza just looks at her like she's crazy, and he asks the burning question that he's had, are you a kitsune? And Naruto just jumps and says, Wait, you know what a kitsune is? I've been wondering that. And Zabuza's eyes widen, thinking that she's serious, and then she starts laughing, going, just joking. I've known what a kitsune is, and I'm surprised you know what they are. And Zabuza says there's the kitsune, then there's the turtle one that's currently at Kirigekure, the cat one for uh, Kumo, the Octopops one, or the Octopus Bull one for the Eight Tails. Then there's the Slug one for the 6, the Bug one for the 7. But I'm gonna, yeah, they were there. The Bug one's extinct. So yeah, the Bug one is extinct. Kitsunes are going extinct. There's only 2 left in the world. Um, the Eight Tails one is extinct. The Slug one is extinct. All of them except for the Nine Tails, the Two Tails, and what is it? I think it's it's the Five Tails. All of them are extinct except for the 9, 2, and 5. Yeah. And Kurama doesn't know that. The Two Tails doesn't know. Well, the Two Tails knows that the Eight Tails clan was extinct, and the Five Tails knows that the Four Tails clan is extinct, but they don't know about the other village clans. So they get back to the Leaf Village and they arrive at Hokage Tower. And when Minato looked up, he saw one missing nin and a random, uh, what he thought was civilian, but then sensed her chakra levels. He's like, that's no civilian, and he welcomed him in and said, what can I do for you? And Team Kakashi walked in front and said, we are here to report on the B rank mission. And Minato says, that's good to know. And Naruto, with one of the rules that she set for Zabuza while they're walking back to the Leaf, is that she gets to hold and carry the Kubikiri Bocho in a storage seal. Deactivates the storage seal and puts the Kubikiri Bocho on one of the walls. And Minato, seeing the sword, understands that this is Zabuza Momochi. And he says, why is there a missing nin here? And Naruto says that they have been on the run and they want to settle down. So I was wondering if you could help. And he looks at Zabuza and asks a burning question. What is your relationship with people? And Zabuza is just confused at this question and says, can you please repeat that, Hokage? And he does kindly, and he says, what is your relationship with people? And Zabuza says, I don't know. I haven't been around many normal civilians lately. And Minato says, okay, that makes sense. And then he turns to Naruto and says, you gotta do something for me then. And she pales, thinking that he's gonna give her another scroll that she has to master in a few weeks. And he says that you're gonna have to go with your godfather, And then he looks at Kakashi and he says, I've already told her about him. And she goes, ooh, Jiraiya? And he goes, yes, you have to go with Jiraiya and pick up Lady Tsunade. And he still says Lady Tsunade with a respectful, in a respectful way. And then Naruto asks, when am I going to do it? He says, after the tuning exams. And Naruto asks when, and Kakashi turns to his team and says, I have nominated you for the tuning exams that are coming up in a month. And Naruto looks excited about the tuning exams. And Minato has finally gotten his third tail and sees that Naruto's tail has changed colors again. And he's like, damn it. Falling behind my own daughter. And Kakashi hears the heavy sigh that he released and is like, he fell behind his own daughter. That's kind of funny. But then he says, during this month, I'm training Naruto and Sasuke as best I can. And then Minato says, I'm sending you, and points to Sakura, I'm sending you to the hospital to get medical ninjutsu training. And Sakura asks why, and he says, did you not learn the mystical palm technique that I gave you? And she goes, yes, I learned the mystical palm technique. Still can't do it indefinitely, but I learned it. And he goes, exactly, you're getting more medical ninjutsu training because of chakra control. Sasuke is a Sharingan user, so he's a frontline. And Naruto being a kitsune, and Sakura, knowing what a kitsune is, looks at her and sees the tail, and Minato nods his head for her to release the other two, and she releases the other two tails and shows the multiple tails, and Sakura says, that's why everybody's so comfortable around you. And she goes, yeah, Kitsune have a natural ability to calm people around them and to project their emotions on other people. And Minato goes on with explaining that Zabuza, being a missing nin, has a 6 month probation period before he can go full active missions. He can do D ranks around Konoha to build up reputation, but he cannot go on missions outside of Konoha for 6 months. And Zabuza goes, that's fine with me, and bows and receives his hiatate, his headband, from Minato. Then he turns to Haku, and she says that she wishes to join the Medic Corps ninjas. And he says, are you a missing nin? And she goes, no, I have never been affiliated with any village, and I have a Keke Genkai of ice release. And Minto's eyes widen slightly, and he goes, okay, you shall be put in a Genin team next graduation, which is in 1 week. Hi, Jack. My fluffy cat is attacking me. Hi, Jack. So she says, thank you, Hokage, and he says, I don't really like the formal terms, so when we're alone like this, and he points to like the room, when we're in small groups like this, you can call me whatever you want. Minato, Namikaze, I don't care. And Zabuza's like, so the rumors are true. You hate formal stuff. And he goes, yeah, I hate formal stuff. And Zabuza starts laughing, going, I hate formal stuff too, so I hated it when the village that I used to ally with called me the Demon of the Mist. And then Minato goes full nerd mode for jutsus, saying, I've heard that you have a Kege Genkai, and Naruto at this point is like, oh god, he's going into that nerd mode again. So she walks out of the room, basically excusing herself, and Kakashi seeing this starts laughing and then walks out, sneaks out. The only ones that are cringing at the fact that he's going into nerd mode are the Anbu that are currently hiding, because all Kage level shinobi normally have bodyguards, because most Kage level shinobi are leaders of villages. So they're cringing that he's going into nerd mode and they have to hear him geek out. And by this time, Haku and Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura have all left and gone for ramen, because Naruto says that she will pay for it. And Sasuke's like, ramen again? You eat ramen like 24/7. And she goes, shut up. Ramen's food for the gods. Legacy fanfic quote, sorry. I have to say where I get these quotes from, because no one will understand if they don't read it. And Zabuza is stuck with Minato, chatting about the Keke Genkai he has and how his bloodline is very unique, where he is the only one who can see through a chakra dense mist. And Minato's asking, what do you mean chakra dense? So he then gives Minato a kunai and says, if you sense any presence at all next to you, you can strike me. I promise I won't move from this spot. So he does hand signs and then says, Mist Demon, Mist Maze, and the Anbu even get affected, and the entire room is filled with mist. And Minato is putting his face right in front of it, or his hand right in front of his face, and trying to see it, but he can't see it. And then he says, okay, Zabuza, you can drop it because I've seen enough. I understand your jutsu now. And Zabuza says, it's hard to understand. Wait, you understand it? And Minato starts chuckling slightly, going, yeah, I understand it. But there's a downside, isn't there? And he goes, yeah. I'm surprised you understood the jutsu so fast. And Minato goes, surprisingly, I can use a lot of jutsus. And then Zabuza asks, what are your affinities? And Minato says, water and lightning. And he only lists 2, because if he lists that he has 4, not 5, he has 4 affinities, that he would be called an oddity and people would get suspicious. And because he's the only kitsune that was not born with all 5 affinities. So Zabuza is like, that is a strange combination, but don't you have Stormrelease? And he goes, no, Stormrelease was taught in the Kumo village in Kumo, but if I go there and ask to be taught Stormrelease, I will be denied, even if I hinge into one of their shinobi and they didn't have shinobi training, because I don't have the bloodline to do it. And then they hear a giant boom. It sounds like water. A giant water explosion. And they look at the training ground where Naruto normally trains, and they see a giant group of Narutos. Well, Minato sees a giant group of Narutos because his eyesight's that good. and goes he says this in his head. She's training another affinity. God dang it. So white is wind, brown is earth, clear is water. So it's gonna have no, not clear. A misty blue, baby blue is gonna be water, and a dark, like navy blue, is gonna be lightning. So Naruto, the real Naruto, is currently eating ramen with everybody else, and then she gets a flood of memories of them accidentally blowing themselves up. And she chuckles, and Sasuke asks what's the matter, and she says, "More of my clones blew up." And he goes, "Are you still training?" And she goes, I never stopped training." And he says, "Wow, you are such an overachiever." And she goes, "Hey, I take offense to that. I have to work 10 times harder than a normal person for chakra control because of the damn furball in my gut." And he goes, "True, true, true." And he goes, "Yeah, I also have to work on chakra control too." And she goes, "No, you don't. You have the Sharingan. You can measure chakra easily by seeing it." And he goes, "I still have to awaken the Sharingan." And then she goes, "You've already awakened the one Tomoe." And he goes, "Yes, but I also need to awaken the two Tomoe and the three Tomoe." "I'm sorry, but I have to be a little bit of a critic too. Storm vids. Why did you call them commas? I know they look like them, but they're Tomoe, not commas." Back on topic. That's the only cringe I have. So they start arguing about jutsus and how the Sharingan is a cheat code, and Kakashi, knowing exactly how to stop this, says, "Do you both want to have more training?" Naruto and Sasuke both pale at this, and Zabuza is finally out of Kakashi's office because he snuck out when he got distracted with the big explosion of what looked like water. And when he turned around, he saw a giant stack of paper just appear in his office in a flash of white. He's like, "God damn it, I shouldn't have taught the torture and interrogation division how to do that." And he said, "Is this to himself?" And Ibuki flashes in with a flash of black and brown, saying, "Hokage, we have more information." And we go back to Zabuza walking in the direction that Naruto told him to go, to the ramen stand. And he gets to the ramen stand, and all four seats are taken, with Sasuke currently fighting with Naruto on two of the seats, Haku and Sakura talking, and Kakashi sitting right outside the stand reading a book. And when Zabuza gets closer, he sees it's a orange book, and his sweat drops. Just being like, "Bruh." The copy ninja, Hatake Kakashi of the Sharingan, the man who knows 1,000 jutsus, is reading a damn perverted book. He said this out loud, and Anko, who's close by at the dongo stand, hears perverted book, and she gets up, walks over, and Kakashi feels a chill down his spine, and he immediately puts the book away, knowing what would happen if the chill came true. And Anko walks up behind me, nice gentleman that now has a headband on, a leaf headband. she asks who he is and what does he mean by perverted book. And he sees this very nice smile. And he knows that, and Zabuza knows that smile is the smile of a Shinigami. He goes, yeah, Hatake Kakashi, right over there. I saw him reading a Ichi Paradise book. And he tells this to this young lady that is quite developed. And he notices this, and since he's not a complete pervert, he ignores it. Then he walks behind Haku after pointing the direction to Kakashi, to this nice young lady that asked him a question. And he's getting better communicating with people. He walks up behind Haku and starts talking with Haku. With Kakashi and Anko, Anko walks up to Kakashi and says, so you're back? And he looks up, seeing a vestige of the Shinigami behind her, and he goes, yes, gotta go. And Leaf Shunshuins away. And all the shinobi feel the flare of a specific chakra that they know not to piss off. And everybody's like, oh god, please save Kakashi. My guy walks up to Anko and says, I shall fight him for you. And she goes, no need. I just need to find him. And my guy goes, I shall youthfully do that, and runs off looking for Kakashi, forgetting that Anko is the lead of the torture division. Because he knows that Kakashi and Anko are a thing, and what happens when you piss off your girlfriend. So he finds Kakashi and he runs back to Anko and says he is here. And he's currently digging a hole. And she goes, oh, he must be digging himself a grave. Thank you, my guy. And she shunshuins away. She snake shunshuined. She snake shunshuined. So Naruto feels that the chakra has died down and goes back to eating, and Naruto goes back to eating and talking with Sasuke instead of sweating bullets, because she knows exactly who that is and doesn't need to turn around to see. So she starts talking with Sasuke, and she pulls up the conversation of how they're going to find their father, or she asks how they're going to find Kakashi, her father, or that she still thinks is her father, when they get home. And Naruto says he's probably going to be in pieces, and Sasuke goes, nah, we're probably not going to see him at all. And Naruto goes, true. I'll make a bet with you. And if you win the bet, I'll help you train. But if I win the bet, you gotta come with me to get Lady Tsunade. And he goes, I'll make that bet. And he's secretly saying, please let me lose, please let me lose, please let me lose. Yes, she still has the frog wallet. So, later, the sun's heading down, and Naruto says to Sasuke that she wants to go watch something, and he can come with her if he wants. And him being curious of what she wants to watch, follows her a little behind, but she has her guard down and doesn't use all of her sensing abilities, so she doesn't know he's currently stalking her, basically. So when they when they get there, he sees that this is the top of the Hokage monument. And she's looking out into the sunset. And him letting his guard down, he releases chakra and she notices he's there. And she starts smiling, thinking he took her up on that offer. And him seeing that she's smiling with this sun making a faded silhouette of her, starts blushing and thinking that she looks even more beautiful like this. And then Shunchuin's home because he's starting to get a nosebleed, looking at Naruto. And Naruto, not sensing Sasuke anymore, is wondering why she feels slightly empty. She looks around and doesn't see Sasuke, and she feels even more empty. And she doesn't know why. So she just brushes it off for a little bit, but she just brushes it off till she gets home, but she still feels empty. And she doesn't know why she feels empty, that he left her. So a month passes and they finally see Kakashi again. And Kakashi is in a daze, mumbling something, and they can't make it out. And Kurenai, the Jonin of Team 10, is walking around like a zombie because of how hard she had to work the last month. And when Team 7 walks into the academy, Naruto senses something wrong and says, let's go up another floor before and check. So they go up another floor before that he can get fooled by the genjutsu. And Ibiki says the rules of the test. They start the test, and Naruto, being super smart in this one, answers the test like Sakura, completely off memory and not needing to cheat. And Sasuke, being behind her, knows that she's perfectly fine with answering this all by herself and not needing to cheat to do this. So he secretly activates his Sharingan and starts copying the answers that she's written down onto his paper by copying the hand movements. So they finish the test, and now it's time for the second round. Anko comes barging in, and Naruto still smells the smell of snakes, even before she came in, and she knows that the smell of snakes normally means a person who can summon snakes. So she's been walking around class after the first, and Ibuki asks the question or tells them that there's one more question, and that if they get it wrong, they can't take the tuning exams ever again. So he fakes them out with that question, and Naruto is still walking around trying to find where the smell of snakes is coming from. Then she arrives at this glasses wearing man, and she bumps into him, acting like it was an accident. And since Kabuto is a Jonin level ninja, he knows that she didn't bump into him on accident. He knows that she did something, and he just plays it off like it was an accident. So Naruto goes around and tells Anko that she needs to summon a snake that is good at tracking. So Anko summons a snake good at tracking, and Anko tells the snake to follow the weak version of Naruto's scent. And this snake that has already met Naruto is like, okay, I will. And she goes after. The snake is a she, by the way. And she goes after Kabuto. And Kabuto doesn't know that the snake is following him. And Orochimaru, who sees this girl that has tails and fox ears, is like, oh. Yes, he's still going to attack to try to kill the Kages and all that. So the Forest of Death goes pretty much similar, except for Orochimaru puts a curse mark on Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke. Orochimaru knows that Sakura is a Healing Hands wizard, or a Mystical Palm wizard, and Naruto is a genius of this, of the Roki 9. So he put a curse mark on Naruto and Sakura first, then cornered Sasuke, put a curse mark on him. So later, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke all wake up and they see Team Dosu about to slit their throats with kunais. And Naruto, who was in her mindscape and was talking to the Kyuubi, sees Orochimaru, and the Kyuubi was about to force him out, but then Naruto sees that where Orochimaru is standing, this weird fluid is expanding from him. And she tells the Kyuubi to wait. So this weird fluid overtakes the entire area, and what once was a sewer is now a lush garden with snakes everywhere. Then Naruto uses her willpower, and the Kyuubi helps with it and gives her the power to eradicate all the snakes without actually moving a muscle. The snakes are forced out, and Orochimaru, who has control over the curse mark, loses control over her curse mark. So Naruto's curse mark does not have control of Orochimaru. It is not controlled by Orochimaru anymore. It's controlled by the Kyuubi. So the Kyuubi slowly pumps his chakra into the Senjutsu chakra, which changed the snake Senjutsu chakra into fox Senjutsu. So which is very important later. It's going to be very, very important later. So, now that the Senjutsu is taken over by the Kyuubi, she gets another tail immediately. And so now she doesn't just get another tail, she gets two more. Sorry. She gets a major power boost. And the original gets two tails, and the clones dispel because the control of the three-tailed Naruto is broken, and now it's the five-tailed Naruto. So Naruto has three tails that can't be retracted. She'll have four tails that can't be retracted, and an additional one tail that can't be retracted because it signifies her affinities. And these two tails, one has strange markings on it, and the other has highlights in it. And she's completely confused of why her tails aren't retracting. Her tails grew, by the way, so she kind of looks like this. Kind of. Yeah. She kind of looks like this. And Sasuke, who woke up a little bit before her, like a few seconds, feels this giant spike in chakra near him, and he looks at where it's coming from and sees Naruto is now enveloped in this reddish, orangish, bluish, whitish chakra, and he's completely confused because it's changing color constantly. It's changing from Otsutsuki, which is currently sealed in Kurama chakra, which is Nine-Tails chakra, and Naruto's reddish, bluish chakra, which is giving it a purplish hue sometimes. So it's constantly changing, and he's like, what the hell is happening? And then Naruto flies awake and immediately speed blitzes by going on all fours. She doesn't even need to learn man-beast mimicry from the Inozuka clan, because it's innate for her. So she speed blitzes Zaku, Miso, and Dosu. No, Zaku and Dosu. She speed blitzes those guys. Ken is terrified because Orochimaru said that there was only going to be one person with the curse mark. Now there's 3. And now and the jump in chakra allowed Naruto to increase her ability with Funjutsu. So all she has to do is touch the enemy to put kanji on them, because she can already exactly replicate the kanji. She just needs to touch them to transfer her chakra into ink to spread the kanji. So she searches Zaku and Dosu, and they have a Earth Scroll. And with how many teams? Because Kumo is trying to re-engage their alliance with, not re-engage, fix their alliance, or not alliance, relationship with the other villages. Sends a team too, and since there's a lot of teams that were still there, they needed an additional scroll. So they have Heaven, Earth, and they have a Purgatory scroll. So they see that they had a Earth and Purgatory scroll. So they pick the Purgatory scroll up, and Naruto thinks, I need to take Ken to Ibiki and Anko. Little did they know they've already abducted a sound ninja that was meant to be in the tuning exams, that was registered for the tuning exams, that spilled that Orochimaru is going to interrogate one of the Kage, and the tuning exams there's going to be an invasion. But they didn't know about why Orochimaru's invading or why he's infiltrating the exams. Ken, on the other hand, knew exactly why he's invading and why he's infiltrating the exams. So when they get to the tower, they pull out the scrolls, and the scrolls leak. They smoke. They throw them down. Kakashi gets summoned, and he waves and then looks at them and asks, what is that person doing? And then Naruto asks, can you get Ibiki for me? And Naruto has grown attached to Ibiki and Anko like they're brothers and sisters. Well, more Anko being a mother, because of Kakashi's relationship with her. But he's like, sure, I'll get you, basically your big brother, Ibiki. And Kakashi, 3 minutes later, brings back Ibiki with a Shunshuin. And Ibiki asking, what? I was currently interrogating someone. And Naruto says, I got one more for you. And she drops Ken down on the ground, and Ibiki looks at Ken and goes, what village is this person from? And Naruto says, the Sound Village. Ibiki's eyes widen, and he goes, okay, thank you. And he then disappears with Ken with a Shunshuin to the IT department. It, it Instead of the IT department, it should be the TI department, Torture and Interrogation Division. The TID department. So when Ibiki gets there, he throws Ken in a cell and pulls the what where he thought the seals were to nullify her movement and suppress her chakra, where he tries to pull them off but sees that they're stuck on her skin. And he's confused. And he goes, I have to ask her after if she completed the Funjutsu that the fourth taught her, or fourth gave to her. And so it was 2 days in the forest. Now they're at the tower and they have 3 days left. Sorry about the echo. So, god damn it. So, Naruto and the rest just rest, and they see that Gaara and his team got there first. So Gaara starts sizing up Naruto and sees that she's part kitsune. And since he is, or not that she's part kitsune, that she is a kitsune, and that she is very strong. And since he has the Sand Demon Shukaku sealed in him, he is part, whatever they're called. They're a mystic. Their clans are mystic beasts. So he's not full, so he doesn't have any tails. But his ears are more shaped to resemble the ears of that creature. So he walks up to her and asks, are you strong? And she goes, I should be. I am the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. And you're the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi. And Gaara's team, currently Baki's not there, but Gaara's team pales, knowing that someone knows that he's the Jinchuriki. And they are looking at the toughest Biju possible. So they are trying to get away from Naruto, and Naruto's just chatting with Gaara, and Gaara finally asks, what is your name? And Naruto says, I am Naruto Uzumaki. And then Naruto mentions that you're part Uzumaki because of your red hair. And Gaara starts talking to her about Uzumaki and what they're good at. And then she asks, what does your seal for your Biju look like? And Gaara, surprisingly, shows her the seal on his neck. And mentions that he constantly hears Shukaku every night, so he can't sleep. And Naruto says, I can help with that. I just need the fourth Hokage and Lord Jiraiya of the Sanin to oversee this process so I don't mess up. Kankuro and Tamari, hearing that Gaara can get a full night's sleep, send a messenger pigeon to, not a messenger pigeon, a messenger hawk to the Kazekage, who in this timeline is not going to the tuning exams, but the fourth knows that, but the fourth Kazekage does not know that the fourth knows, and he writes back a message saying in code mentioning that he is going to the tuning exams and we can discuss there. Or not in code. He says that, and in a code at the bottom, it mentions how it would be great for Gaara and his strength if he can rest. So tell them yes. And the Kazekage was kind of forced to be a pawn to Orochimaru in this timeline because of Orochimaru put a seal on Gaara and his Biju to where it annoys him a little bit more and has a higher chance of escaping. And they've already had 3 run-ins with this tailed beast, and they don't want any more run-ins. So Gaara waits a few days, and Minato is about to tell Naruto that her godfather is currently in the village. And I'm going to have to leave it off there because it's late and I need to get off. I'd go for another few minutes. So, Minato tells Naruto that her godfather is in the village and that he is willing to train her. And Naruto says, "That's great, but I have one condition for me training with him. If he helps me and you help me with a seal, because Gaara of the Sand is the Ichibi Chinchuriki, and I feel bad for what he's going through. Because I have all you guys and he's lonely and being driven insane by his tailed beast." And Minato ponders this and says, "What did Gaara and his family say?" And Minato knows that Gaara is the son of the fourth, and the Sand siblings, and she says this, the Sand siblings said that the fourth said yes in code, but is still coming to the tuning exams. And Minato goes, "Okay, that makes sense," and starts to get a letter ready because Jiraiya is showing up in a day. He's currently 1 town out. So Minato summons Ma and Pa to take a message to Jiraiya for Jiraiya to get ready, because once he gets back to the village, he has an assignment. So Ma and Pa see the kitsune, Minato, who has a summoning contract with the toads, and they see the kitsune, Naruto. They immediately know the story behind this and say, "We will deliver it and we will tell Jiraiya the situation." And Minato nods his head, and a day later, Naruto is currently at the Namikaze compound, underneath the Namikaze compound, with the super sealed room, and Gaara and the Sand siblings are currently Standing in the middle of the room, Jiraiya just arrived. Naruto asks the Sand siblings very kindly to move to the side so they can work. Naruto places her hand on the ground, and kanji starts flowing from her hand. And at this time, Minato sees that there is a new mark on Naruto's neck. And I'm going to leave it there. Slight cliffhanger. What is the father going to do to see a hickey from a pervert? I'm sorry. It's kind of funny. But at this time, she is 15. Yeah, 15. She is 15. Sasuke is 15. Sakura is 14 and a half. So yeah, well, talk to you guys later. Bye!